I mean, let's be fair. We're trying to, forego the gym in this context, right? We're trying to inject, get bigger, and not worry about strength gains because we don't want to go to the gym. We just want to pin, win, and gain muscle. Let's move over to ACE-083, which looks a lot more promising. It potentiates localized effects, but the difference between ACE-031 compared to ACE-083 is that all of the studies performed on ACE-031 have been done subcutaneously, besides that single animal study, and all of the studies performed on ACE-083 have been done through intramuscular administrations, which seems to be the most favorable route to go if you want to use these kinds of peptides for site enhancement purposes. ACE-083 is a modified version of the 288 isoform of follistatin linked to the Fc region of human immunoglobulin IgG2. ACE-083 is also a decoy receptor that binds myostatin, GDF8, but unlike ACE-031, which only binds myostatin, ACE-083 also binds GDF11 and activins A and B, which would otherwise inhibit further muscle growth and differentiation. ACE-083 is also known as follistatin 288 fusion protein, abbreviated to FST288/FC. ACE-083 was designed to act locally within the muscle that it's administered into through intramuscular administrations. Duh. And once ACE-083 enters systemic circulation into the bloodstream, it's actually rapidly metabolized and thus minimizing systemic effects, which is very similar to how intramuscular administrations of IGF-1 LR3, IGF-1 or Increlex work. Right? You inject it locally into the muscle that you want to improve in muscularity, overall volume, size, and strength. And then once a little bit goes systemic, it's rapidly metabolized in the bloodstream, maybe potentiates a little bit of systemic effects, but you can only detect elevated IGF-1 levels for 1 to 2 days, right, with intramuscular administrations. And the scientific evidence from the human clinical trials shows exactly the same thing. ACE-083 levels were only detectable in serum following 1 to 2 days post-intramuscular administration. So let's start diving into the human clinical trials, which have been performed on healthy postmenopausal women, patients with Charcot-Marie tooth disease, and patients with facioscapulohumeral muscular dystrophy. Another mouthful. All of these studies performed intramuscular administrations of ACE-083 at dosages ranged between 50 milligrams upwards to 240 milligrams, either unilaterally or bilaterally, to observe the changes from baseline. And this was either done once or twice or every 3 weeks for a maximum treatment duration of up to 3 months, right? We're pooling all of the scientific literature together. And again, ACE-083 was only detectable within the first day following administrations, so that would indicate minimal systemic effect, but none of these human clinical trials actually took the time and effort to observe changes in organ weight or overall organ structure, which you can determine with an MRI, which they also had available in these clinical trials. And the general consensus of these human clinical trials is that intramuscular ACE-083 administrations increase the volume of the examined muscle between 10 to 15%, and some of the muscles actually increased by 19.1%. So that's very similar to the intramuscular administration of ACE-031, right, into the right calf compared to the left calf. An increase of, let's say, 10 to 20% if you inject these peptides locally with intramuscular injections. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In the ACE-031 studies, there were no real follow-ups. But in the ACE-083 study, in the human clinical trials, it seems that within 8 weeks, muscle volume returned, let's say, to 4% increase to 5.5% increase from baseline. So after you discontinue ACE-083 injections, within 8 weeks, you can expect a reduction or a significant reduction, which is still higher than baseline, which would indicate true muscle gain, right? The inflammation is gone, the nitrogen retention, the water retention, the electrolyte retention, the potential glycogen retention, which were all not measured. I'm just speculating here, right? All of the retentive effects, which you would expect from myostatin inhibition, are now long gone, because I don't think that ACE-031 or ACE-083, for that matter, have such a long half-life or active life, right? So it's probably most likely completely metabolized by week 8. Myostatin is starting to work normally again, just like GDF11 and activin A and B, inhibiting further muscle mass accrual and cell proliferation. So you're left with a net muscle gain of 4 to 5.5%. I think that's a win. I think that's a huge win, right? The initial swell is gone. Muscle return to their normal size, which are now 4 to 5.5% larger compared to baseline. Is it worth the price though? I'm not entirely sure. And the commonly occurring side effects in all of these human clinical trials include post-injection pain, muscle inflammation, or overall muscle pain of the muscle that was administered with ACE-083. So that's very similar to the commonly occurring side effects of ACE-031. Most of these side effects seem to dissipate within a couple days. The side effects of ACE-083 dissipate within a couple days following the administration. So if you get administered, let's say 240 milligrams bilaterally, so left and right, 480 milligrams ACE-083 every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, the post-injection pain and the overall muscle inflammation is only there for a couple days following the injection. That's probably also worth it, considering the insane amount of gains that you could be potentially making. And of the limited animal models that are now available of ACE-083, they show similar findings. There's a dose-dependent increase in muscle volume of the muscle that's administered with ACE-083. Very, very promising, I would say, albeit that the results from the human clinical trials are a little bit different compared to the animal models. The animal models show that there's an increase in strength, but in the human clinical trials, there was no increase in strength, even though they tried to measure that. So are your muscles bigger due to the inflammation, or do they actually accrue real functional muscle tissue, also making you stronger at the same time? But I mean, let's be fair. We're trying to, forego the gym in this context, right? We're trying to inject, get bigger, and not worry about strength gains because we don't want to go to the gym. We just want to pin, win, and gain muscle. Now, after doing all of this research, you don't have to. Personally, I would say that I'm more interested in ACE-083 compared to ACE-031, even though it does have more scientific literature that you can dive into. Again, all of the citations are down below. You don't even need to go to PubMed. All you need to do is click the links and start reading. I would go with the maximum effective dose as based on the human clinical trials, right? The dose that has been investigated. Maybe a big bodybuilder actually needs more than 240 milligrams intramuscularly bilaterally, a total of 480 milligrams ACE-083 to elicit an anabolic response beyond the anabolic androgenic steroids and the growth hormone and the insulin and the Increlex and whatever else that we're taking, right? We're trying to take us to the next level. And whatever dosing protocol goes alongside of that, we don't really know, because I don't think that anybody has ever attempted such a high dose of ACE-083, or at least not to my awareness. And maybe add in 30 milligrams YK11 every single day. Why the hell not? Let's go for the utmost synergy, testosterone base, growth hormone, insulin, Increlex, or IGF-1 LR3, if you can source that a little bit better, ACE-083, and YK11. I mean, that stack should surely push you over the edge. You're plateauing and you will gain 10, 15, maybe even 20% new muscle volume. And after all of the swell and the bloat and the inflammation has dissipated, you should be left with 4% to 5% gains. Looks very promising, but after doing the market research, looking at all the prices, it seems that based on limited gray area peptide websites that actually sell ACE-083, most of them sell ACE-031, could be anywhere between $15 to $125 per one single milligram. So if you go with the highest dose of the investigated protocol in the clinical trials, 240 milligrams intramuscularly bilaterally every 3 weeks, for a total of 480 milligrams, that will cost you at least $2,400 per week, or a little bit over $10,000 per month. So I would say that's another win, another point for ACE-083, because it's half the price and it acts locally through intramuscular administrations. Now, before you start double mortgaging your house, keep in mind that all of the human clinical trials and most of the animal models have all been funded by Acceleron Pharma, right? Similarly to how all of the SARM's animal models and some of the clinical trials are funded by the developing company that is behind SARM XYZ, right? They want to bring it into clinical trials so they can use it as a medication at a later point in time, right? Return of investment. So take it all with a grain of salt. I'm still waiting for anecdotal experience of ACE-031 or ACE-083. I know one individual, and I'm not sure which treatment he got. He's under the supervision of Dr. Adil Khan. He told me in person that he underwent follistatin gene therapy, one single treatment, and he felt he got little results. Now, again, this is a very well-known and very well-muscled bodybuilder on YouTube. And, based on that report, I would say that it might not be worth it yet. And if you go with all of the anecdotal reports that you can read on, the bodybuilding forums or on Reddit or some of the other forums where performance-enhancing drugs are discussed, it seems that everybody is really underdoing their dosages, maybe 300 micrograms or 1 milligram, at most 2 milligrams every single day or per administration. Then they take some time off because the post-injection pain can be quite severe, apparently, based on the reports that people post on these forums. Most of these people, actually all of them, report lackluster results, very likely because the dose is so low, not anywhere close to the investigated dosages. When I look at this well-known YouTuber not getting any results, I'm already getting a little bit skeptical. And again, the final nail in the coffin is probably Brian Johnson, who has undergone follistatin gene therapy. Doesn't look like he made phenomenal gains. So I would wait. I would wait to purchase a boatload of ACE-031 or ACE-083, which would be my personal choice, even though the scientific literature is quite compelling, I would say. The costs don't really warrant such an experiment, in my personal opinion. Doesn't mean I don't want to try it, though. Honestly, doesn't mean I don't want to try it, though. But I've done some calculations, right? If we want to do this right, if I want to run an experiment with ACE-083, I'd have to go with a more reputable gray area peptide website or source that somewhere else where I feel comfortable running that many milligrams. And then do the before and after organ imaging with a full body MRI, right? So we can see if there's a localized effect of ACE-083. I did some quick calculations. It's going to cost approximately $100,000. So if you want to see that experiment, the GoFundMe link is down below. Or is it? So long story short, if you have some disposable income, I think you can spend it a lot better. Most of us are not anywhere close to our absolute peak using anabolic androgenic steroids and other growth-promoting peptides to the point we actually need ACE-083, right? If you have a certain medical condition, these compounds might be highly promising. I mean, come on, just because you feel small doesn't mean you suffer from a muscle wasting condition, right? If you want to spend some money, do it on your health. Do your blood work over at Merck Health if you live in the United States. They have excellent healthcare providers to help you interpret your blood work results. So if you feel stuck making gains and you're already on, compound XYZ or hormone replacement therapy, patient care coordinators, the healthcare providers at Merck Health can keep you healthy, allowing you to make continuous progress, right? You don't need to look into ACE-083. Get healthy first. That's probably the best money you're going to spend. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can find everything that I'm associated with down below in the YouTube description section. All of the citations are there, evidence-based with citations. Yes, please.